Hello, Movement Radio family. This is Quincy here with a special guest in the building, Miss Nicole Bramwell.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing very well.
Awesome. Good to have you. Thank you for setting a little time out to talk to us.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be on the Movement Radio.
Awesome. I sure appreciate it. So, let's jump right in it.
Absolutely.
Who are you?
Perfect first question. I am Gayon Nicole Bramwell. I'm the middle child of parents who live and work in Broward County. I know you probably didn't ask for all that detail, but I come from a Jamaican family.
Uh-oh.
I was raised in South Florida. My parents are entrepreneurs. They own an insurance brokerage here in Lauderdale Lakes. And I started a movement, I think, online called sheventuresnow.com. It's an online brand I created to really encourage single millennial women and zennial women to really maximize their singleness and really push for the career and the job that they love, not just the career or job that they felt they expected or they felt that was expected of them. And so I've started a podcast last year. I was really excited about it, and it got traction. We've got a couple thousand downloads and a lot of support, and the reaction and the feedback I got from that was something that I didn't quite expect, but it really boosted my confidence that, this concept of empowering women beyond just fluffy thoughts, but with practical information would be beneficial.
So I just got a question towards that. Why single women versus any other type of woman? Why just single women?
So it's funny because the brand has evolved to where it's not just single women anymore, right? She Ventures Now, actually the background story is I started a blog called Art of Singleness. And it was really targeting the single woman and their emotional health. After doing some, reflecting and introspection, I said, you know what? I don't necessarily want to target just the single woman.
Right.
I want to encourage women, and particularly minority women, Afro-Caribbean women, that they can live their dreams and they can receive the practical support to do that. The reason why I started with single women, just to answer your question head on, is because I had lived so much of my personal journey single. I had done so much of my life was just not in a relationship and learning about life by myself and navigating life by myself. Some of it was by choice and some of it was just not, to be honest,
That's weird.
Why?
That you would say it's not by choice, because whether you're with someone or not, that's a choice, right?
Well, I think you're onto something. I think there is definitely. And be honest, I think at some point I had to acknowledge, and it's something that I write about on She Ventures Now. If you look under the category of singleness, I think there's a degree of singleness that is not by choice, and there's a degree of singleness where it's like, well, what are you doing and thinking that's allowing itself to manifest in being single, if that makes sense. And so just to kind of tease that out, one of the things I strongly recommend, and I still do this, is for single women to really do the heart work and to do the internal work of realizing how have you created a lifestyle where you're not meeting someone or you're not allowing yourself to love someone else. And so that's stuff I put out. Those are some writings I put on the blog and I talk about, and I've even coached women on. But right now, She Ventures Now is completely focused on career coaching and career guidance.
So something like law of attraction.
Yeah, a lot of, oh man, that is such a trigger phrase for me. Law of attraction, absolutely. Absolutely.
But law of attraction is pretty deep. Like if you think about what like the whole movement was about, it's deeper than just the physical or the principle of the law. It was more so spirituality as well.
Yeah.
If you get into the whole attraction and that whole mind waves and like attracts like, and
Yeah, I haven't
through
dived deep.
meditation and all of that.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't done a deep dive on the law of attraction, but you know, I've watched The Secret,
Oh,
75% of
big.
The Secret.
75.
Only 75%. At the recommendation of someone special, I read a book called U Squared.
Nice.
I've read a lot. I've you know, if I could take a step back and just kind of give a little short overview of my personal journey, I kind of had a little bit of a wake-up call around age 25, and I was really distraught. I found myself celebrating my 25th birthday with my parents and hating it because I wasn't married. One. Two, my parents, though I love them and respect them, honor them, and I'm so grateful that I came from, that I'm a product of their rearing. They had a very volatile marriage. And so I remember distinctly sitting at Red Lobster, it was a restaurant they chose, and hating the fact that I was celebrating my 25th birthday alone and with parents who had a unhappy marriage. Okay? So I distinctly remember that, and I bring that up because I started diving deep into personal development and trying to figure out what is it that I wanted in life. If I wanted a marriage, did I want it now, or did I want to get certain things done before I got married? And I remember sort of agreeing with myself, like making this personal promise that I would get certain things done before I got married, because I wanted to bring to marriage something that would make my husband's heart smile, if that makes any sense. I know that sounds super fluffy, but I wanted to bring to marriage, and I wanted to bring to my future kids this storyline that before mommy became daddy's wife, she was out there making it happen for herself to be a reflection to her daughter and her son, that you don't wait for marriage to make you happy. You bring happiness to the marriage.
Exactly.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That your life doesn't start at the point that you found someone to love. Life starts way before that.
Exactly.
You know? So those are some things that I had to settle before I came to She Ventures Now, before I got into real estate. That was something deep and personal that I, at 25 years old, I was like, all my friends are getting married, and I needed to figure out what exactly did I want out of life. Was marriage the apex of happiness, or was I socialized to believe that happiness came when I'm married and I have a ring on my finger and we're starting to travel and go on exotic trips because I'm married, Once I kind of checked that box off mentally and realized, okay, no, I can be happy without being married. Well, what is it? Well, what do I want? And I started realizing, one of the things that I wanted to do, and I got the chance to do, was to help plant a church in South Florida. And even though it wasn't necessarily an intrinsic passion, it wasn't. Honestly, I didn't sign up for it. I didn't necessarily say, I didn't grow up believing that I was going to be a church leader and help plant a church. It gave me the experience of handling and dealing with different people issues that I never thought I would have the experience to deal with, right? And it gave me an exposure to the reason and the need for life coaching and wisdom in people's lives. So there's a lot that I got out of that experience, and one of which is the fact that the church cannot fulfill the void of information that people need to grow up and to be personally developed. Like the church can't do that. That's just my opinion. That was my reflection. But another thing I felt like it was eye-opening for me is that I had believed that whoever I was going to marry was just going to pop up in church. It's just going to be like magical. And I realized that that's not how life works all the time. It just really doesn't. The second thing that I realized that I wanted outside of just marriage, and again, just to answer your question about law of attraction, and what is it, why did I have this passion in helping single women at the onset of starting a brand? I realized that I wanted to develop myself professionally and have a stable career, but not in the sense of working for a company for 50 years and then retiring. I come from parents that are entrepreneurs, and I always grew up seeing them being very enterprising and figuring out ways to make $1 into $5 and $1 into 10. And it struck me at really late, at 27, 28, I started really hating my job. I just hated it. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to this story, but I remember going to work, and I was the executive assistant for a publicly traded healthcare firm. And while, my stakeholders respected me, I could not respect, for the life of me, I could not respect the work that I did. I felt like I was only using 10% of my brain, and I felt like I was going crazy. I didn't understand why, I graduated from a great school, University of Florida, but I hated my job. I just really did. And second time, I think that I had like a personal aha moment outside of the 25 crisis moment, crying, I'm single, and there's no one for me. Well, what is happiness? The second time was me really having a lot of anxiety around my job and delving deep into a book called 48 Days to the Work You Love by Dan Miller, career coach. And he really espouses in that book how much, if your job is not working for you, you need to take decisive action within 48 days and stop procrastinating, and also what he points out in the book is that whatever you're passionate about, you can monetize it, or whatever you're talented in, you can monetize it. You don't need to wait for somebody to hand you a job and explain all of the job description and tasks like you've been socialized. You need to take action on the things that you are passionate about and monetize it, and get rid of this poverty mindset that if you do something you're passionate about, you're going to be living on peanuts. I thought that book was so eye-opening for me because it's something that was already rumbling in my heart and in my mind, but I didn't have language for it. But I want to point out something else that the book talked about. Dan Miller's a Christian guy, but one of the things that he talks about is just the sort of the misguidance that a lot of, if you grow up in the church, or if you're part of the church culture, or if you're just even a traditional person, one of the things he demystifies is how sometimes people think that their belief in God means that everything will pan out the way that they want. Meaning,
so it's fairy tale, like they're using God as a genie.
Sort of. It's this though. It's this idea that, well, if I want the job I want, all I need to do is pray about it, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he talks about, like he really debunks just some myths that people pick up. It's not that it's taught directly, but they just pick up from this church culture, right? And I really took that. That really stuck with me because, to a large degree, I had graduated college, and I just thought, well, if I just pray about having a great job, it'll happen. It wasn't happening.
So you don't think that's taught in church? That kind of thinking, and how it's in the culture of pray, fast, and it'll happen.
I think there's a way in which it's not everyone. I can't sit here and say which churches do it or whatnot, but I think that it's definitely in the culture. It's definitely in the water somewhere. Yeah. Like it's in the water, and I think there's ways in which some people have really, really, really strong or good balance of leaders in their lives, whether mentors, whether parents, etc., that help them see, okay, you can't be so mystical that you're not doing anything about it.
Right.
You can't. That's just not going to work.
You got to have some practical steps.
You got to have some very practical. Now, here's what's funny is I also, just to punctuate that book, one of the other things that I got out of that book was he was not, I really appreciated that Dan Miller encouraged people to understand sort of their zone of genius. And that's a phrase that I kind of got out of it. It's not something that he says, but he just really believed and outlined that you have multiple intelligences. Everyone is not going to be academically intelligent and then make all the great grades, go to the great schools, and then, right? You have people that are more physically intelligent. They're more spatially intelligent. They're more socially intelligent. And they can't be judged off the same race.
I agree.
So I really appreciated that book. Again, white male who wrote it, Christian guy, older guy, different generation, and he has multiple degrees. And he's saying college is not for everyone. He's saying you don't have to stay at a traditional job. And he's saying a lot of people who have stayed at traditional jobs find themselves living with this quiet frustration because they're, heading into their 40s and 50s and they still haven't lived the life that they wanted.
Yeah, you know what? Like through my little journey, I found that the more times that I meet people with multiple degrees and that's highly educated, so-called highly educated, most of those people will look back and say it wasn't the education. That got me here. It was like, for my example, education. I look back after I got my degrees, and I wasn't any smarter. What I know and what I use from college is very little.
Yeah.
based on like what I already did. Now that I do it, I got a college degree behind it, so now it's a big thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's nothing that you didn't always was doing.
Yeah.
That central intelligence that you have. I want to move to some other layers of Gayon here. I know that you're a lifestyle design and life coach.
Yeah.
And I want to know, how did you kind of get into that, and what makes you get passionate about being a life coach?
Yeah, so I try not to use the life coach term anymore, mostly because it's not specific. It's very general, and some people, what I've noticed on the market is some people can have a very presumptuous, thought and be taken aback when they hear life coach, right? Mm-hmm. So what I try to do is really, and I say this all the time, is that I'm a career coach. Okay. And life coaching is the umbrella term, so it encompasses career, mm-hmm. but I tried to pinpoint my services and my encouragement towards career coaching, the career coaching field. Why am I so passionate about it? I think one of the things that makes me really passionate about career coaching more now than ever is because I see, and I want to take a step back, work just as a concept, right? We live in a world where the social contract that we all agree to is working somewhere between 40 to 50 hours a week. Mm-hmm. That's the social contract. Okay. You can work less than that, you can work more than that, but for the most part, we all naturally disproportionately put a lot more time into work. It is what it is. Right. I feel that, and also research shows that 70% of the American workforce are either unhappy or disengaged at work. One of those two things.
Or shopping online.
you know what it is. So 70% of the American workforce is if you think about that concept, 70% of the American workforce is disengaged or unhappy with their work. Well, what is the problem? What? 70%? That's a really high percentage. Yeah. So when I got wind of like that data, I started to think about what problem could I help solve, right? And I'll even, again, going back to a story, just because I love to give it in terms of my journey. Mm-hmm. I was sitting at in my position as an executive assistant for a healthcare firm, I was sitting at my desk, and when I would get done with all my work, I would just read. I would just read online, read ebooks, read personal development articles and material. And one of the persons that I had started to follow, and I still respect to this day, is Seth Godin. You probably have heard of him. Seth Godin is thought to be like a guru of marketing. He's really a thought leader in our day on just trends, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. He wrote an ebook called Schools Stop Stealing Dreams. It's an ebook, it's free, it's about 100-page long ebook. And he writes it like sporadic blog posts that he's just compiled over the years. One of the things that he brings out in the book is how the Industrial Revolution really the school system was framed by the Industrial Revolution. It was created to help make compliant employees. So let's backtrack. We got 70% of Americans who hate their jobs. We spend a disproportionate amount of our time in work, 40, 50 hours a week. Mm-hmm. That rounds up to about 2,000 hours a year doing work, right? But 70% of the American workforce hate their jobs. So that means that you have 70% of the American population that's spending, around 2,000 hours of their lives a year doing stuff that they don't like. And then Seth Godin is helping to go back in history and say, well, a lot of the work that we're doing now is a reflection of the fact that they created the school system to just make compliant employees, people who are not free thinkers, people who are not creative thinkers, people who are just there to punch a clock and get a task done, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it's so important that people understand that you have to, everything, we're following whatever the generation before us set. Yeah. So the real trendsetters in this generation are out front creating change, doing things that people in the information age are doing. So it's so much, now we're in this information age, but everybody, like you said, is caught up in this whole industrial age thinking, industrial age work, industrial age investing, trying to still be free financially with the 40-hour work week. And it's just
hard. Well, not everyone has it the way you have it.
It's not going to happen. I'm just, I can't say it's not ever can happen because I think you can earn a pretty good living
Working
as an employee.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. It's
It
difficult
is.
to enjoy what life has to offer while being an employee.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurship is, I'm big on that. I'm
Same
big.
here.
Like
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
what you need to be studying, researching, and trying
Right.
to develop into as an entrepreneur.
So I read Seth Godin's book.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself again feeling the effects of enlightenment and just feeling like, oh, I'm frustrated because I do have creative passions that I'm not giving myself to.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've recognized in my own personal story, but also in people that I've come across throughout my journey, are this common theme of frustration, of feeling constrained to a job, to a desk, to a computer, to a screen, or to a set of tasks that they have to routinely do year in and year out. And they're not necessarily flourishing in something that they believe that maybe God has called them to, or their purpose, or something that they know that they have, above average skills in, that they know that they can monetize.
Mm-hmm.
And I lump that into all career coaching, even if it's an entrepreneurial passion that somebody has. Because at the end of the day, what happens is if you're not confident in your own skills, it's very hard to sell someone.
Right.
It becomes very difficult if you don't actually do the introspection involved of understanding how you're gifted, your zone of genius, what problems you want to solve, and also being convicted about that. Because I've recognized, even though I don't believe in being a jack of all trades. I get it. I get the concept. I think there is a case for having mastery in like top 3 skills. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if you are a jack of all trades and master of none, someone is not going to know to pick you for a task or for a problem that they want help to solve. They're going to pick the master person over you. That's just my opinion,
Well, kind of how I look at it is, because I guess I'm the flip side of the coin. I'm pretty good at a lot of things. I don't know if I'm great at one. And I think that it allows me to be more flexible in a lot of situations.
Right.
Whereas
Right.
if I have a complete mastery of, let's just say, English, if I'm just an English whiz, well, science will be a little bit uncomfortable for me. But if I have a great understanding of English, math, science, history, then I can go in each arena and be comfortable enough to make some noise in there. So and that's how I look at like the things that I want to do in the natural. If I want to do investing, then I need to be at least above average in that. If I want to do something in contracting, I need to be above average. Not that I've mastered it.
Well,
but that I'm pretty good. I can hold my own in a lot of different places.
So I look at the ability to hold your own as different than I'm going to build a business around a particular skill. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I think that, when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think baseline, you've got to have mastery in something. I mean, at some level, why are people coming to you? Mm-hmm. They're not coming to you for average. They're coming to you because you have mastery. So I believe in holding your own. Don't get me wrong. It's like, you don't teach a child, you don't just not teach a child math. You teach them math, and there's a possibility that they just need to pass. Like, they can have a passing grade.
Right.
They can hold their own. But masters, the child that makes a C in math may not need to be the CFO at a company. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
CFO probably got the A in math and got the C in English. Just a very, very broad stroke example.
I understand. I get you.
You get what I'm saying?
Get you.
Okay.
I get you. But here is what I would say.
Yeah. And pause. You're really great at real estate and numbers, are you not?
Yeah, I'm pretty decent.
Oh my gosh. That's another thing too, is like when someone's like extra humble, they have a hard time. You can't just say that you're pretty decent and like own multiple properties. I think there's a definite difference between someone who is like heavily investing in different properties and wants to develop them and someone who has one property and is decent at making the numbers work for one property. I don't think you're just decent, is what I'm saying. I think you have mastery over real estate.
How I look at it, like as an entrepreneur, when I think entrepreneurship, I think the command and control of multiple moving pieces. So as an entrepreneur, I can't get too deep in the weeds of if I'm doing a development. If I'm doing development, I can't get too deep in the weeds of the contracting or the finances.
Yes, but time
or
out.
All that.
Time out.
This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I'm trying to tell you. So I can't get too deep in the weeds of all I do is as an entrepreneur, you are the motivation, you're the inspiration for the product. It's not necessarily mean that I have to be a master at developing, financing,
I don't disagree
or whatever
with you.
it is.
I don't disagree with you.
You got that. You as an entrepreneur need to hire that CFO and that COO and all. You got to be able to identify those people and hire great help.
I think we agree. I think we're talking about different facets of the same coin.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, the developer doesn't have to execute every element, like you said. But the developer is a master over the whole concept.
Yes.
So do you understand what I'm saying? So now here's the thing. If we're going to use the developer as an example, the developer has mastery of the whole big picture. Mm-hmm. That's something that the CFO, one person, wouldn't have.
Right.
But the developer has mastery over the entire development process.
Right.
Entrepreneur, that's a very generic term. We have to use somebody as an example. My parents. Mm-hmm. My parents are entrepreneurs, but they started an insurance business. That was the bread and butter of our family.
Right.
My parents have mastery over the insurance industry. They know the trends. They know the forecasts. My dad even said at a family meeting, 2 days ago, he said, you know what? One of the things I forecast is that home inspection as a business is going to take off in South Florida. He's expecting that insurance companies are going to be employing and contracting out more home inspectors due to the fact of the way Hurricane Irma, that whole Hurricane Irma situation last year. He has mastery over the insurance industry and the trends, the macro issues. What he doesn't have mastery over, he does not have mastery over marketing. He doesn't have mastery over the accounting. He has understanding of all those things, but he doesn't have mastery over it.
Right.
So do you get what I'm saying? Like they put the package together to make the business happen, and that's good, but they don't have mastery. So I agree with you that you don't need to, as an entrepreneur, have mastery over the whole, over the individual pieces, but you do have to master the whole big picture.
It's just like how I like to kind of explain it is, it's like, let's just say Denzel Washington and Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
They're both great in what they do, but Denzel Washington is a great actor.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Steven Spielberg would hire him. He'd be a smart man to hire Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
To act in his movie because he's a great actor. It ain't flip-flop. Like Denzel is not going out hiring the directors.
Okay.
So the director would be more of the entrepreneur. Denzel Washington would be more like a finance guy.
So what would you say the director is a master at? Because I think that's what I'm really
identifying talent.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs have to be they have to be able to identify who and what's going to fit into their puzzle to make their vision possible.
Okay. And what would you say now that entrepreneurs are masters at?
Identifying talent.
Okay. Yeah, but what are they masters at outside of that as well, in addition to that?
Well, they provide the vision.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
An entrepreneur, a great entrepreneur should be able to provide the vision. You should be able to, if you want to, break it down into something natural, like painting a wall. I might not be a great painter. Say for instance, if I'm gonna renovate a house, I don't want to do the work. I can go out and find a great painter, a carpenter, all of these people, and I provide them all of the tools necessary to be successful. Nice. But it's their skill that makes my vision of what I want in the house happen. Yeah. I can't paint like he paint. I can paint. Yeah, I'm not a great painter. I can lay tile, but I'm not great at it. Some of it be crooked. Mm-hmm. I can hang stuff on the wall. I can put cabinets in, but it won't be as great as a carpenter. But I can have that vision and an understanding of carpentry, flooring, drywall, paint, so I can identify a person that's great at it. I say, okay, I'm above average at it. This guy's better than me. I want him as a painter.
Just so that we round it out with this understanding, what would you say that the host of Movement Radio is a master at when it comes to real estate?
Oh.
Based off of your results in the last 10 years.
Well, I mean, I math is a gift for me.
Okay.
It's a gift for me. I don't have to study for it. It's just something, I understand numbers that way. It's just a gift. Like, it don't confuse me. I can look at complex situations and kind of make it very simple in my head. And being able to get that, what I view as something that's complex and someone else thinks it as complex, being able to get it and put it on a spreadsheet. So maybe a person that don't understand the numbers like I do can look at it and say, oh, okay, now I see what you're trying to, you know. So that's just a gift.
All right.
That's a gift for me.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
That just happens.
Okay.
So back to you.
Yes.
Because this is about you, not me.
I'm sorry.
I want I know you're interested and you're actively pursuing real estate.
Yes.
What is it about real estate that attracts you to it?
That's a great question. Okay, so I told you guys about my parents.
Right.
My parents were always involved in insurance. They also sell home insurance, commercial insurance, etc. They were also enterprising human beings, meaning they were always looking into different ventures, one of which was real estate. They would buy condos, rent it out. And I would not know this until we moved here in 84. I was 4 years old. I didn't know how much they were into real estate until maybe I was 20. And I was like, oh, we have a property here and here and here and here. I remember one time they had a property in South Florida, a condo that they own. I mean, these aren't huge properties, but it was something.
Right.
Condo in South Florida, a property in Gainesville that they bought for my brother and I for us to go to school at University of Florida. It was a villa. It was a townhouse. They bought a property in Atlanta, land. They owned property in Jamaica, and they were buying a property in Wellington, Palm Beach County, to build their dream house. And I remember just saying to myself during the 1920, I'm like, man, they really, it's beyond just business, right? It's beyond that. It's beyond work.
Right.
They really wanted to own land and receive income. I had a very embryonic understanding of real estate. I just knew, I'm going to be honest with you, I honestly just really enjoyed growing up and having my parents look at houses. I would go with my parents to look at houses, and it was a fun experience to look at houses. I think after, this is another personal story, I would love to just share it and be a little transparent. I felt like I was praying when I was around 19, 20, and I felt like I kind of knew something was up with the land that they were owed, or the properties they owned, one of which was the house we owned in Wellington. I kind of felt like I got a hunch we were going to lose it. It was weird. They had bought the house. We had lived in it for about 5 years. I was in college, so I didn't really directly live in it. And I just kind of felt like we were going to lose it. Now, that was 2002. I graduated college. No, that was around 2004. I graduated college in 2007, 2008. It's the crash, the economic downturn of U.S., and everybody's houses belly up. And I didn't know this, but in 2009, my parents short sold the house that they bought. I think they bought it for a lot of money. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but they ended up short selling it. And at the time, I thought it was foreclosure. All I remember is that we had to get out of a 5-bedroom house in a day. And at the time, I had moved back from college. I had graduated 2 years prior, moved back from college, and I was in the midst of getting prerequisite courses for nursing done and just supporting my family, being there to help raise my younger brothers.
Right.
And we had to move out of a house that I thought that everything was fine on in a day. My brothers were 9, 8 years old, and they were helping, but they didn't understand. They felt like we just sold the house. They were just talking to their friends, yeah, our parents sold the house, and they didn't know we lost the house.
Right.
So all that to say, emotionally, I felt like I saw both the positives and negatives of real estate. And I remember the distinct moment. I mean, I'm 22 at this point. I remember the distinct moment of feeling like, this is not supposed to happen to us. This is not the way it's supposed to go. You're not supposed to lose a house like this. It really wasn't. There's other dynamics I really can't talk about that happened. But essentially, I remember distinctly from that moment feeling like, never again. And I want to dominate in real estate in whatever way I can. It was seminal. It wasn't like I said that like this then, because at that time I was super young. I'm 22. But looking back, I think it planted a seed in me that I think I can figure out real estate and maximize what we experienced.
It's not hard.
It's not. I've learned that now. So I had the seed in me, and then fast forward a couple more years, I knew that I could become an agent, but I had been hearing that, no, it's a bad time. It's a bad time in the market to become an agent because of the downturn. But I still wanted to like learn it, right? And I had friends that were doing kind of quasi well. But long story short, I decided that I would learn real estate. Funny thing was I became a business development associate at a property tax consulting firm. And being that I was getting them clients, and I'm talking this organization that I worked for had like, REITs as clients. It was not like a small shop. It was, we represent, Duke Realty. They represented WCI, right? Minto Communities, home builders, large companies. Right. And I remember having to call CFOs and CEOs and literally pitching our business to them to reduce their property taxes. And I don't know jack about real estate, not to the degree that I needed to. So that put in me and reminded me that you should get your real estate license. You should learn more about the market. You should learn about development. And that's when I pursued my master's degree at Nova for the Master of Science in Real Estate Development.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Story.
During that time when the market was crashing and everybody was going crazy and no, don't go into real estate. That's when I started.
Yeah, same here.
That's when I started my real estate. I incorporated and I got really serious about real estate during that time.
Really?
So like two sides of the coin. Like some people see it as negative, tragedy, and I saw it as, man, this
opportunity.
Is an awesome time to buy real estate because everything's cheap. I looked at it like houses that was $250,000, they were now $90,000, $100,000. I was like, whoa, I can get 1, 2, 3 of these houses real quick. So crazy, interesting though.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So a lot of times we gotta see
opportunities when nobody else
opportunities, yes. What's the guy, Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett says when everybody's running away, run to it. And when everybody's running to it, run away from it. So basically, buy when they're selling and sell when they're buying. Real estate is
Same thing.
It's that. For me, that's kind of how my concept is in real estate.
Gotcha.
The podcast. Let's jump back to the podcast. The She
Sure.
Ventures podcast.
Yeah.
I think you covered what was the inspiration for that. Well, how do you? What's the methods that you follow to identify a person to interview on one of your podcasts?
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, I try not to make it very complicated. I started very basic. I started just picking and choosing people in my life, my friends. Issa Rae, you guys know Issa Rae, right? The creator of Insecure.
Nah, I don't.
No, you don't. Beautiful black woman who created Insecure. She started Insecure off of a YouTube channel she created where she created like a whole play about being an awkward black girl. Yeah, so it's funny because the whole reason why I bring her up is one of the things she's been quoted as saying in interviews she's done is a lot of times when people want to sort of make a quantum leap in their professional career, they think that they have to look vertically, someone ahead of them, by a certain vertical in order to get ahead and sort of like network with people vertically. But she says, a lot of times the advancement you're looking to make can happen when you look laterally. You look horizontally, those who are on your left or right, and it's your friends that you can go up with, as opposed to thinking you leave people behind and just try and accelerate your professional development. And so for me, the podcast was an outlet for me to kind of re-network with people I know already who are doing cool things in my mind that I consider dope. So I've interviewed friends who I've interviewed friends that I've had from back in middle school who are still, pushing to start their own business or become speakers. I've interviewed you. I got a chance to interview you. I started the podcast though under this, under the singleness category though. I mean, if you look in the way that I started my podcast, I started it with some deep reflections about me being single and steps that I was taking.
Right.
And then I started interviewing other single women that I had known who knew that I was making these deep reflections and writing a lot about singleness and really how they navigated and becoming emotionally healthy while single and being single for a while. And then what I did was the next season, I started interviewing people who, singleness, who made career changes. So people who had navigated that frustration of being at their job and not liking it and wanting to make a career change.
Right.
Again, people to me that would seem interesting, that the topics were interesting. And then thirdly, I started interviewing people who had started businesses, one of which was you. And I interviewed people who started businesses because I wanted to really, in my own research, I wanted to get data socially about what it takes to start a business and what you have to overcome,
right,
and the personal development that it requires. Because I think in our age, in this information age, in this social media age, there's a lot of there's a lot of propagation about it being super glamorous to start a business when it's not. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of you staying up late. You waking up early. You socializing less. You spending your money way different. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a way in which people aren't really getting that because we want to show like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Look at how I'm living my best life. When we don't realize like there's a lot of grind and there's a lot of rest, and there's a lot of trying to balance life priorities while creating something new from scratch.
Yeah, I always try to, when people ask me about business, I always try to give them like the grimy part up front.
Yeah.
Like, it's great, but if you got to be willing. Like for me, it was me ending up to the tail end of a military career.
Yeah.
So it was for me. I said to myself, well, if I work half as hard for myself as I did in the military, like success is going to happen. So
that's good.
And that's the thing that most people got to understand when it comes to a business and starting an entrepreneurship is that you have to work. You have to put forth the work and the ethic and be disciplined about what it is that you're passionate about, because you should be working or starting a business in something that you're passionate about. So shouldn't be a forced thing to say, okay, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna grind on whatever it is, whether it's marketing, promoting, going out networking, whatever that is that you have to be successful at in your field. You got to do it.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but which goes back to why I specifically address career coaching as sort of my new focus, because I did want to offer small business coaching and like helping people launch businesses, but I'd go back to the career coaching piece, because if you're not clear about what you're passionate about, and also an honest assessment of your strengths and weaknesses and those threats or opportunities, sort of like a SWOT analysis, you will have a harder time, I think, starting a business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you're not honest with yourself about what you're really willing to do and what you shouldn't do, what you're willing to do and what you shouldn't do, then you're gonna have a harder time. You're gonna try to do everything yourself, and then burn yourself out, or you're gonna try and maybe not work as hard because you're trying to make everybody else work for you. It's a delicate balance,
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It is a delicate balance.
It is.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. For the most part, my podcast is sort of my playing field of networking and catching honest, current, cool people that I really want to learn from.
Right.
And allow them to promote themselves as examples of either entrepreneurship or career change.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm all about Black excellence. That's what the movement radio and the network is all about Black excellence. So I like that. It sounds like you got a book or two in you. What you think about that?
A book?
Yeah.
I do think so. I think so. I have to be honestly be more disciplined and dedicate what time of day am I really going to write, because there are some ways in which I feel like I want to write and get it out of me and just compile it and create like a series, but I've yet to really pin myself down. So it'll happen when you least expect it. Yeah. What do you think I would write a book about?
I don't know. But it sounds like you got some entrepreneurship, some development. You got life coaching in the back, so you can go many different ways with it. I've been saying I was going to do a book for a while, but I don't even say it anymore. So
really?
Yeah.
No.
I've been saying it for a while, but
so I have a friend.
It is what it is.
I have a friend, and her name is Robin. She's written a book, and she's totally inspired me that you can do it. And publishing, again, you asked me why am I so passionate either about career coaching or entrepreneurship. We just live in a completely different day and age where if we want to publish something, we can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it. Like, this is not
Google.
Like, it's such a different day and age.
Google, YouTube, how do I publish a book?
So different.
Boom, video, step by step. Somebody that's want to be an expert will tell you, this is what I did to publish my book. Step 1, I did X, Y, Z. So, that's how I did with the radio station.
Yeah.
Like, I just said, I want to do this. I don't know how to do it. I'm going to ask people. I'm going to Google. And I'm just gonna take a leap. So and then wherever that's at, like that whole quantum leap, theory. Yeah. Like you can go from 1 to 5. You don't have to hit 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. You can make that quantum leap. So I guess this is my leap.
Yeah. Yeah. You've made multiple leaps though. Multiple.
And they get easier when you understand it. Just like anything. Starting out riding a bike, you fall, you hurt yourself, you skin your elbow. You're scared to ride, but you get back on it, and now riding the bike is second nature. We don't even think about it now. Yeah. Driving, anything.
You're getting me excited.
Anything that we do is easier as we do it.
Yeah.
You got to put in them 10,000 hours, like Malcolm Gladwell said, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Got to do it. Hot topics.
Sure, go for it.
Something that may, that's current. And maybe difficult to discuss, but I think it's necessary.
Sure.
Yesterday, was it? Yeah. Or Friday? Well, I don't know if it was yesterday or Friday, but just recently. Yeah. Dr. Cosby was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, was found guilty on 3 counts of whatever that was.
Right.
I don't know how much of the background.
You're hitting me up on these topic. Yeah, go ahead. No, it's okay.
So I don't know how much you know about it, but you've been
I've been keeping myself apprised just a little bit.
Being an expert on women. What do you think about that whole situation?
Well, yeah, I want to start off by saying Cosby Show is one of my best shows, one of my all-time favorite shows.
All of our shows.
I would dare say not every black person loved Cosby Show. I got as a Christmas gift from my white roommates the Cosby Show. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, my white Hispanic roommates gave me Cosby Show as a gift because they knew I loved them so much. So I want to start with there. 2, when I heard the accounts of all of these accounts that these women were making at the time, it was very disheartened, just as anyone else would be.
Like, but you don't think?
Hold on. Pause. Let me pause. Okay. I was very disheartened.
My fault.
And when I looked into the situation again, beyond just what the reports were saying, right? Because it's such a headliner that if you just read the headlines, you're like, oh, he must have done it. But when I started thinking more about and I started doing a little bit of research, not a lot. I'm not saying I really, because this is a hot topic. I wasn't aware you were going to ask me about Cosby's situation. But when I did a little bit of research and I did some probing into an article that talked about at the time when he was when this was happening, and I'm not taking his side, but at the time that it was commonplace to use certain drugs. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what that did was that placed a certain element of doubt in my mind about timing and generation. Because I'm not gonna sit here and say it's equivalent to marijuana, and marijuana being illegal in the past and now it's approaching becoming legal. But I think there is some measure of like difference in expectations socially back then and then to now. Okay? Now, what I will say this, assault is assault, and if just one person that got, sort of vindicated by the fact that his allegation was found guilty, I'm glad justice was served. I don't know how many of all those allegations were true, but when I looked and read some of his affidavit, I was like, wow, there's some of it that I just felt like he's even saying he did it. So
well, I think when you read the affidavits, it's just like what you said. You have different times.
Yeah, context.
So like cocaine and quaaludes was the life back then.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, like, it's just like me saying, if I take you out and I buy you whatever, a pina colada or whatever drink that you like, am I trying to get you to a point where I can take advantage of you, or I'm just doing socially what
is acceptable?
The norm.
Yeah.
What's the norm? The norm was, in those days, was cocaine, give you a rush, you on your cocaine high, you want to come down off your cocaine high,
yeah,
you take the quaaludes. So, and this was acceptable. One of the things that I read was the one young lady was saying she was touched at the Playboy Mansion. Like, she was at the Playboy Mansion and he gave her something at the Playboy. Like, what are you doing
at the Playboy Mansion?
At the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah. So there's another, and I can't sit here and be like the representative of all women, so you know that. But I was raised differently. I was raised very differently, and you know this. But as far as my parents concerned, from a parenting standpoint, the way they reared me, it's differently. And then too, socially, I was raised. Not only was I raised in the church, I come from a very protective, religious, spiritual background where I could not think of being alone with the man in those scenarios, like being at a Playboy Mansion or being alone with God. Like, in my mind, I'm just like, why are you alone with him? Why? And you're 17.
I mean,
so that's, and I don't say that to judge people. I'm saying and I'm not saying that to put the onus on the woman, right? So I know some people might backlash to this interview, but I'm saying because from my perspective and the way I was raised, you don't go and be with men by yourself at 17 and not fear of being taken advantage of. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, the opposite of that, the other side of this is there were certain accounts where when the women explained the situation, they were given a drug, and then after they black out, they wake up, their clothes were off and everything. That's just unacceptable. It's very egregiously unacceptable in my opinion. Egregiously unacceptable. That's just my opinion about it. And I think that there needs to be had more social conversations like this around male and female dynamics around sexuality. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of view it as a whole, I'm way out there in the field by myself, but I think it's something socially within this, WASP culture that we have.
WASP?
That white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male. Mm-hmm. So it's something about this culture that is destructive to successful, powerful black men. It's very destructive. You can go back to the 50s and look at each powerful, successful black man, and they were all kind of socially destroyed. Like the image of them and their the way that they were portrayed is socially destructive. Even Martin Luther King, we celebrate him now, but they was tearing Martin Luther King down. They put out movies about him being, promiscuous. They put out like books about all of these different things that he was doing. So they'll praise you, but they tearing like powerful, successful black men down to the core
Yeah.
in each generation. And this is just another example of
that
that's being played out before our eyes.
Well, I guess there's a part of me that honestly, like I can agree and understand that. I can also though feel like we can't put past powerful black men the need for accountability in their actions and what they did.
Absolutely.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's like I can agree that there is some type of conspiracy against black men, because I think in history tells it, when we have had any powerful black male figure, they have all been like strategically eliminated somehow. I do think that Bill Cosby has lived a very successful life that had very little tarnishment at all. I don't even know if tarnishment is a word, until it became known that he had allegations of rape. And then people started, and we're in this culture now of Me Too, people started picking up on like, you mean you're coming out in the open about that? Oh snap, he did that to me. I would dare say, and I think it's also white male too, so I don't want to just make it seem like we're going to talk only about Bill Cosby's situation, but there's plenty of men that are getting away with foolishness in sexual assault. Plenty. I mean, if you've read, this is not a fair example, but the Aziz Ansari situation, I don't know if you read about that.
No.
He's a man of color, but he's not black. He's Indian, but very well known, and he went on a date with a woman, and the woman was saying no and stop it and whatever. It wasn't rape. But let me backtrack. It was not a good interaction, if that makes sense. But back to Cosby, people, men and women, need to be held accountable for their actions and their behaviors in intimate circumstances as well. And I just don't know if he never got, I don't know if he never got adjudicated in the past because of his fame.
I don't know. Like he still was a black male. Like there isn't you can't tell me in 1970.
But okay,
there was a woman, a white woman, or a group of white women that was scared because his fame was going to be believed before their word. Like you can't. I don't.
And again, I don't know the cases that well, but
I can't. That's not a feasible.
But again,
I do
I
analysis.
can't. No, and I know.
Feasibility analysis.
I know. At the end of the day, but again, at the end of the day, if somebody has done something and he wrote an affidavit about his occasions and his interactions with these women, and you write in your affidavit saying what you did and what you put in their cup or whatever, you're telling the story. I mean, I just think that, again, he's being held accountable for his actions. Whether or not those women's motivations, which I don't think that his women's motivations were to get money out of him. I mean...
So why ask for it? If all you want is justice, why not be satisfied with the justice?
So there did they receive something?
Yes, one of the lady that you're talking about now, that the whole affidavit was written about, she had, back then when the affidavit was written, she received like 3.3 million or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, again, I stand by the fact that I think men should be held accountable for their actions. I will dare say that I think women should be, at some level, need to have a better conversation around what they're tolerating from men. Because even when I started, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of, what's his name? He's a hip hop mogul. In his situation recently.
Russell Simmons. Yeah.
And those accounts. And again, you read them, and, I will never put the onus of the issue or the alleged sexual assault on the woman, but I read them and I'm like, why are women putting themselves in situations where this can happen? And that's where I'm saying, like, I don't know, because I know I come from a really maybe old school mindset, old school or protective mindset. But it gets really muddled when...
Well, I mean, Russ been borderline for a long time. I mean, it's not like we can't remember that Kamara Lee, she was a teenager when he showed up with her, and she was pregnant and all that. So, I mean, Russ had to be about 50 then. So
Okay, so you make mention of something great. The fact that it's borderline.
yeah,
Right?
I mean,
The fact that it's borderline, to me, that is direct intimation that it could have been something else going on that was not appropriate, right?
well, I mean, from what I know, from my little time being around like entertainment, I know a lot of, and it's probably sad to say, but it's a lot of women that understand the power of sex, and they know what a powerful guy, you know, and he has the ability to get you a casting call or to get you a role on a movie, and they use that sex as a way to get in. That is the guy, casting couch guy, the Weinstein guy.
Yeah,
this guy's been like, he's been knocking off women for 30, 40 years on the casting couch. Like they said he just walk in. He didn't even like play with it. He just walk in with his towel. And like, you want the role or not?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
it's a lot of stuff.
World.
I was talking with a dude that
But okay, so pause. My reaction is coming from a person who is not in the entertainment industry, right?
Yeah, neither am I.
Like that world is foreign to me.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue when we talking about Bill Cosby and these other successful men that are the gatekeepers, so to speak, of success in movies and entertainment.
Yeah,
is because these women, like, if you do that and you feel bad about it a week later, and then you don't make it an issue until 25, 30 years later. I mean, how can maybe you were the one? You were the 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 different women that didn't make it, but.
That's a little bit to me. That's a little bit oversimplification of issue, but I hear you.
I'm not trying to oversimplify. I'm just trying to give you like a reality of it. Like, there is a lot. One guy told me that was, he was in a couple of movies, and I had a conversation with him. And he told me, he's like, Hugh, man, everybody you see in movies or TV or music or any type of entertainment, they've done something.
Wow.
He said, everybody. All of those squeaky clean images and all that, he said, everybody have done something. Like, everybody is, say, that whole Hollywood thing over there is insane. So he was like, reason why you find so many actors committing suicide or going crazy. So it is
Hollywood is crazy.
Yeah, it's not. They call it Hollyweird for a reason.
What do you think about the Starbucks situation?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
Well,
there's multiple situations that happened in the last 2 weeks. Starbucks, the 5 women who were golfing in Pennsylvania, who were asked to, because they weren't
5 black women.
5 black women, they weren't golfing at the right pace. They were being asked to leave by the owners. So
here is.
And then thirdly, the woman at Waffle House who was arrested, and they had her breast out exposed and all of this stuff. And I'm just like, police. Well, what is going on? And then you know about the Starbucks situation. They had been there for 2 minutes. 2 black men been there for 2 minutes in Starbucks, and they called the police in 2 minutes because they had not become paid patrons.
Well, I'll just give a very kind of brief how I feel about it. I think we as black people of African descent here in America, I think that we have to get away from the perception that acceptance among the white establishment is successful.
Mm-hmm.
We have to retrain our thought process to understand that group economics, and this is a part of how I feel about Black excellence and movement radio and the whole concept of why I started this movement. We got to understand the power of group economics. It seems as though everyone understands it but us.
Mm.
It seems as though whenever you have a group of people that unify and they want to get their agenda pushed to the forefront, they understand that economics, group economics, pooling our economic resources is the way to get that done.
Yeah.
Most recently, the gay, lesbian, whatever community.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, they're the most recent group of people, or group that have pooled their resources and throw their economics behind political parties. And they had policies put in place by the recent political change that benefited that community, because they use group economics and say, not only do we have a number of people, but these number of people also have this amount of economics that we can put behind you, and here is our agenda if you want that. So until we understand that, until we get away from the thought process that if it ain't white, it ain't right.
Yeah.
Then
whiter, brighter.
We're gonna continue to struggle. We're gonna continue to be disjointed as a people. And for some reason, we as Black people feel like it's almost wrong to get together. I don't want to go over there with them. They ain't no telling, they ain't got it together anyway. And that's a little bit crazy. But specifically talking about Starbucks, how economics again. We'll tackle economics again. If we spend our money in the places that we should spend our money, if we back our dollar, that was just the article that I read last quarter. The black dollar was valued at $1.73 trillion in this economic climate. We have the buying power of $1.73 trillion. Made Black Panther a $1 billion movie worldwide.
Yeah.
If we can get behind Black Panther and push our resources, which was a beautiful movie, which was very inspirational, but Disney owns it. So we made a lot of white people rich. Or richer.
Yeah.
So we gotta understand that. It's so much I can say towards that.
Yeah.
But that little piece there is about group economics.
Yeah.
It's key. It's key to the development of respect for us as a people. I'll just leave it there because it will be here another hour.
Yeah, I think
we'll be here another hour if I unpack all of that. And even with the police brutality, not just the woman, but that's that happened in Waffle House, but what's been happening over the last 50, 60 years to men of color and women of color. If it was any other group, they would have pooled their resources together, created an economic movement, and declared like economic war against their oppressors. But we don't. It's like Black people don't understand that the people that are oppressing us want to keep us oppressed, and it's not by accident. The oppression and the degradation of Black people in America is not an accident. This is not. It was designed this way, and only unification is going to defeat it. If it's not unification, I mean unification across all facets, and it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for us to get past that. I know that's a sobering reality, but
It is sobering, but it's good. It's good to end there on a. I mean, it kind of earmarks part of your mission with Black excellence.
Yeah, it's all about that.
Yeah.
About the excellence, the economic movement, the whole Black Wall Street again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm a proponent of that. I'm a proponent of supporting things that's Black.
Mm-hmm.
Like we gotta do. We can't be afraid to be Black.
Hey.
You can't be afraid to be Black. I can't be afraid to say movement radio is about Black excellence.
Yeah.
I can't be afraid. It's like we got businesses out there, but because they want to be successful, they'll take the Black off it. So, and I think that you don't have to, nobody else, no other community. Mm-hmm. Chinese don't take China restaurant off of their Chinese restaurant and just put restaurant.
Yeah.
They got Chinese all over everything. So, and every other group, socially and politically and economically, does the same thing. But somehow we think that associating with the people that's trying to oppress us is going to remove that oppression. Like the more we like you, well, I'm like you, I think like you.
Yeah.
No,
that's
you're
a great
not.
point.
You're not. So, I mean, of course, it's general, and I'm not saying that every Black person thinks that way, and I'm not saying that every white person is that way, but collectively, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's what it was created off. That's how America was created. Every aspect of an American culture was created off the supreme thought that white people were greater than all others. That's what this creation that we're living in is all about. So, and we got to understand that. And unification of our minds, socially, politically, and economically, is the only way that we're going to defeat it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to be around here getting brutalized and kicked off golf courses and beat up in Waffle House and shot in Ferguson. And so it's, and the reality of it, we can't, there's nothing done about it because folks know what we're going to do. We're going to get mad. We're going to get on social media. We're going to make a post. We're going to walk a little bit, maybe riot.
Yeah.
For next month, we're going to be doing like the latest challenge, the ice bucket challenge, or whatever challenge. Like it's ridiculous. But that's that discipline we was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
To stay the course.
We have to.
Yeah. But Miss G. Nicole, I appreciate you for coming through and allowing me to get this time with you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you supporting the movement.
Yes.
Being a part of Movement Radio.
Love the music.
Oh, tell the folks like where they can get you at.
Oh, yes. I'm on Instagram at sheventuresnow.com. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/sheventuresnow. You can also email me at info@sheventuresnow.com if you have any questions about my career coaching program. And you can always hit me up on my main online property, sheventuresnow.com.
And the podcast?
Podcast, yes. Go to iTunes, look for She Ventures Now, and you will definitely see my face.
Yeah, so Movement family, support that. Support She Ventures Now. Download the podcast. Listen to the episodes. And it's good information. Great for the women that's in the Movement Radio Network. So
yes, women of color.
Support that. We got to support that. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for being in the building.
Of course, anytime.
Boom.